Macaron. He's a resident fellow at the Arab Center here in Washington, and he's with us in the studio. Joe, thanks for coming back. We look at where this is going right now. President Erdogan, citing the failure of talks with Russia, is now saying that there could be an imminent operation in Syria. Is that looking, that's if Assad doesn't pull back, is that looking increasingly likely at this point?
It is definitely a very complex time for the U.S.-Russian relation compared to the last few years. But I still, like many, I think, believe they will not get to the point of confrontation. I don't think, regarding their massive interest somehow, they will not basically lose that because of what's happening in Idlib. At some point, there's pressure now. Erdogan is hinting that an operation might happen. Russia is hinting that also they are still deciding, so they continue their objective in northern Syria. But I think at some point they will draw again their territorial border. Maybe it will be narrower in Idlib at some point. Now the M5 highway was controlled and secured by Russia. They have a lot of issues I think they have to go through regarding in Libya and Syria and even their bilateral relation, but I think they will not risk escalating it to the point of confrontation.
Well, it would seem less optimistic if you're looking at what went down in the UN Security Council with Russia's rejection of a resolution for a ceasefire. They're not even advocating for a halt in the fighting right now.
Well, that's a typical Russian position on Syria. They vetoed every decision on Syria since 2011. So it's the UN, sadly, unfortunately, is not the place to solve a conflict. Usually they are solved outside, and sometimes they package them in the UN, but this seldom happens. So I think eventually it's between Russia and Turkey to find a deal, and the UN maybe can help at some point to help in some humanitarian aspect, which is getting more catastrophic at this point. But yeah, the UN is not the place to resolve those conflicts.
If Russia and Turkey have not resolved it through talks up until this point, and you have Erdogan threatening military action, let's just say, for instance, that there was some sort of a military operation, what would that look like logistically? And do you think that Turkey would have maybe the support militarily from the United States in this, given the fact that President Trump continues to say that he's backing Erdogan when it comes to northwestern Syria?
I mean, let's start from the second part. The U.S. only cares from what's happening in Idlib on basically having a distance between Russia and Turkey, and have Turkey closer to the U.S. on general issues, not only on Syria. So there's no strategic benefit for the U.S. in Idlib. They only care about the other side of the Euphrates. But what's happening in Idlib, it's for Russia and Turkey to deal with, and there's no really strategic benefit for them. So, and Russia, if Turkey wants to go alone on the operation, it also have some opportunities and some challenges. The air power of the Russians will not basically help them, and at the same time they can do some sort of operation which can drain also the Syrian regime if they want to have a long-term operation which will basically change the dynamics of the region. So I think on both sides they are not ready to go down this road, and if this happens, I think both also will lose.
And in the middle, you have hundreds of thousands of refugees caught in the middle. Well, Joe Macaron, really appreciate you coming on. Thanks for your analysis.
Thank you.